People say, I don't have the time to create content, to shoot content for my business. I want to have the time. I want to grow my business. I want to be able to do all of the things that I'm supposed to do, um, but I just don't have the time to do it. So we've been doing a series on what some hacks, so to speak, of what you can do to maximize your time. So that means that you're uh, taking small portions of time throughout the month to and leveraging those small portions of time to make a bigger impact as far as your content is concerned for the rest of the month. And so I'll just give you an example. Last time we spoke about batch recording, and I have a shoot with one of my clients for next week, and we're going to shoot all 4 videos for the month in one day. So it's going to take us 2 hours. We already have the topics, we have the scripts for the videos. We know what we're going to be talking about, we know what we're going to be shooting. So all he's going to do is change his shirt. So that's the batch recording side of it. He doesn't have to then think about it next week and sit down to plan and think and strategize and make some time. And, things keep coming up because things come up. That's the nature of life, right? So you have to compensate for the inevitable, and the inevitable will be that things will come up. So, how do we fix that? With batch shooting. But today, I want to give you another tip that has been very helpful, not just for creating content at scale, but also to solve one of the issues that I find is most prevalent when I work with people in terms of video. And that is the insecurity that comes from speaking to a camera. It's hard at times to get someone that's never done that before, that hasn't had any kind of media training, to all of a sudden be comfortable on camera. It's one of the biggest issues that I've seen time and time again. In fact, I had a client one time that we were scheduled to shoot, and we spent a whole hour shooting a 30-second clip. And it wasn't because the clip was long, it was just because they had a hard time being on camera. And so that made it so that every single time that we would shoot, they would lock up and freeze up. And so I thought, well, what can we do that would mitigate this issue, this challenge? And so I thought about what this person was good at, and they were very good at talking to people. They were very good at having conversations. And so I said, well, what if instead of just doing direct to camera stuff where it's just them by themselves talking to a camera, we do a podcast style where they interview people, they ask them questions, we get a ton of content from that, and they don't have to freeze up on camera because it's easy for them. They're doing what they already do, which is just talk to people. And so we did that. I said, hey, do you have any people that you could invite to come speak to you? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, let's do that. And so we set up some cameras, we brought in their guest, and then they would interview people like a podcast. And he found that to be absolutely easy for him. And we would shoot for 30, 40 minutes without a problem. Sometimes we'd go for an hour, hour and a half. And he loved it. He got excited about it and started inviting more people because it was something that he was able to reliably and repeatedly do. It was comfortable because all he was doing was having conversations, and it was easy because most of the talking was done by the guest. And it was like a win 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 because the guests had the opportunity to sit with someone in a professionally shot video, and they got a ton of content from that shoot. So everyone ended up winning, right? We ended up winning because we had a client that was happy. He ended up winning because he had content that was good. The person that he would invite, the guest, was happy because they had content that they could use for their socials as well, and to help their brand and to help their business and their message get out there. So and it wasn't uncomfortable for anyone because nobody was directly staring at a camera and looking into a lens trying to speak to, a disembodied avatar somewhere. They were talking to a real person that was sitting directly across from them, and that real person was giving actual feedback. And This is something that I've noticed just about, life in general, how we congregate and how we group when we're in social settings. Most of the time, if you pay attention, people are having one-on-one conversations, and that's where like most of the interactions happen. It's just one person talking to another, and then other people will kind of clump with those two. Like there'll be two people talking, and then other people will kind of come around and clump around and just observe the conversation and participate from time to time, but it'll be those two main people speaking to each other. And that's really what a podcast is like. You know, a podcast setup is like. It's something that enables you to have a conversation with someone else, right? And enables the people who are watching the podcast to be that sort of that clumping effect, where the people that come and just watch and observe. So I actually have a graphic for you here that I didn't put on the screen, but I'm going to put it for you now so that you know professional, right? So what's the principle that we're talking about here? We're talking about repurposing long form video. Specifically, we're talking about repurposing podcast style long form video. Now, this repurposing can be done with tools like Opus Pro. I recommend Opus Pro. That's what we use, but you can use something like Wisecut. You can use something like CapCut. You can use different softwares that will automatically do these things for you. There's even like Wondershare by Filmora, which will chop shorts out for you from your long form video. In fact, if you were to submit a long form video to Facebook, to the through the Meta Business Suite, it will recommend from the submission shorts that you can derive from it in vertical format, and it does that automatically. So you don't even need to pay for a software. Technically, you could just hypothetically, I've never done that, but you could hypothetically upload the entire recording to Facebook, and it would suggest those shorts for you without needing an additional software. So, there are many ways for you to approach this, right? The repurposing of the long to short. So, what happens? Well, with one video, you can produce easily 15 short form videos if the video is even 20 minutes long. I've seen that over and over again. If the video is like 40 minutes long, you can make easily 30 pieces. And now you have content to post every single day, which of course you want to be posting as much as you can possibly post, and some people will be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to exhaust my audience." So that's not a problem. That's not an issue. Your audience is never going to be tired of getting value. Your audience will never be tired of that. And I think about it this way, I think about when I go on Netflix and I watch a show that I enjoy, and I never upset because there are too many seasons. Usually, if it's a show that I enjoy, I'm upset because there isn't enough seasons. And so I'll binge watch an entire weekend, or I'll binge watch an entire week, right? For one show, through, burn through 12 seasons. And the more seasons the better, right? When we enjoy something, we want to watch more of it. When we're getting value from something, we're going to want to watch more of it. We're going to want to consume more of it. So the issue is never over posting. It's not a thing, right? It's just internally we feel like we're over posting, and we feel like we'll exhaust our audience, but our audience is not tired of getting content from us. I've watched so many hours of Alex Hermosi, for example. I've watched so many hours of Gary Vee. And quite frankly, most of the time they're saying the exact same thing. I've watched so many hours of Mr. Beast, for that matter. I'm never going to be like, oh yeah, I'm tired of this. This is they post too much. I'm tired. No, it's not like that. I wish it was more, right? When content is good and it solves a real problem and it speaks to a specific problem that people are facing and it helps them in a real way, it provides value, then that content is going to be bingeable. That content is going to be something that people are going to be wanting to consume, and they're going to want to share it, and they're going to want more of it. So, no, you're not going to exhaust your audience. You just, and there is that uncomfortableness within yourself that's going to try to block you from doing more, because you're going to feel like, oh, everybody's already seen me. They're tired of seeing me. But that's just internal. Like that's within us. It's not your audience. Your audience is not going to complain about it. Plus, there is also the factor that not all of your audience is even seeing your content. The reality is that most of your audience is not seeing your content because the algorithms don't trust you when you start posting anyway. The algorithms have to build up to trusting you. And so they'll release your content little by little. So it's very, very possible and actually most likely that your audience at large hasn't seen your content. Some of your audience has, and the most like bona fide hardcore, true followers of yours have seen your content, but most people have not. So the second piece of advice when it comes to uh, making content creation easy that's in a way that saves time is to record a long form piece of content and then have that long form repurposed. I recommend a podcast style. You don't need fancy equipment. This day and age, we have so many tools that make this easy. Listen, I started a podcast back in the day, and that podcast was complicated. It was complicated because you needed to have fancy equipment. I needed to spend at least $400-500 just on microphones. I needed a recording solution that allowed me to record remotely. I was not able to record and do camera at the same time. Today, today you can grab your cell phone and you can get something like the Hollyland Larks M2s, which M2S I believe it is, which are a microphone that plugs directly to your phone. You can set your phone up on a tripod and then you can have audio for you and for a guest simultaneously being recorded into your phone. You can then and that audio is going to be fantastic podcast style ready directly for YouTube, directly for your podcast distribution channels like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and you know uh, uh, Google Podcasts and Deezer and all of that. So when you take that piece when you take that approach and you hold on one second.
Lunch? You're gonna be here for lunch? We're getting Chinese.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah.
1 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. You want to come look and
Yeah.
order?
Just
Okay.
just give me 1 minute. All right. Live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Um, so so when you approach it that way, right? When you use the tools that we have available to us this day and age, you can make a really big impact with very very little effort. So don't overcomplicate it. You don't have to have a $10,000 camera every single time I do a class, and I've done this quite a bit. But every single time I do a class in a like just yesterday I did a class at the Martin County Board of Realtors, right? um every single time the most asked questions are surrounding gear. And look, we can have a gears conversation. I can give you advice if you want to spend $100, or if you want to spend $20,000 on your studio setup. I mean, you can see my studio here. I've spent a considerable amount of money on making this studio look the way that it looks, right? So I can give you advice on that, but it doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be that complicated. You can make it as simple as a cell phone with the Hollyland Lark M2S. And I'll tell you this, that microphone is about $140 on Amazon. And the audio, it has active noise cancellation. So even if you are at a bar, like at a coffee bar or outside, it will automatically cancel the noise around you and isolate your voice, right? So that's something that would be great. And if you shoot it in 4K, then you can repurpose that content easily with Opus Pro. So that's the tip for today. We are live, so somebody knocking on my door. It's that's life happens, right? But I believe that there's a value in these lives because it's a very close one-on-one connection as opposed to a very polished video that goes out and with this day and age with trust, with the trust recession, and with a lot of AI content, live is going to be more and more of a thing. So look out for that. So, all right. I do have one more piece for you in terms of saving time when it comes to content that I am going to be sharing with you in another video. So look out for that. But until then, thank you for stopping by and go on and have a great day.